Hi, I'm John Townsend, and welcome. I want to talk to you a little bit about depression. Goodness gracious, you either have been depressed or somebody you care about has been depressed. It's really well, I'll use the term ubiquitous. It's all over the place. And unfortunately, it's not good for us. I want to give you sort of the one, two, threes of it so you'll understand it, understand what it's about, and know what to do about it if you're depressed or someone you care about is depressed. Um, the best way to look at depression is it's frozen grief. Frozen grief. In other words, depression is an awful sense of being blue, having a down mood, low energy. Thoughts are moving toward the negative. A lot of times, loss of life interest, loss of interest in sex or in food or in great times, and depression can even go to suicidal thinking. It can be very, very serious. And there are different kinds of it. There's major depression, which can debilitate you. There's this dysthymic disorder, and dysthymic disorder is a lower level depression. It's not as high level as a major depression, but it can really be awful too. And then there's bipolar disorder, which has the highs, the manic phase, and the lowers, which would be the depression of those roller coaster phases. But one way or another, it tends to be frozen grief. Let me explain what I mean by that. The way that life goes, life has losses too. We lose people we love, we lose opportunities, we lose health, we lose money, we lose relationships that we would like to keep going. Sometimes people pass away, and sometimes relationships break up. And the most healthy response to that is a thing called grief. God gave us grief. Jesus, it says in Isaiah, for example, he was a man well acquainted with grief and sorrow. Jesus was the leader of all leaders, and he was God in the flesh, but he also understood how to deal with loss. We're supposed to process things out with grief, and that's when we get connected and comfort, and we can talk about the opportunity that was gone, the relationship was gone, either in our childhood or in our present, and we weep and we get love and support, and it goes away. But if you never had training in grief, in other words, you didn't come from a family where people could talk to, but it's okay to feel sad feelings. It's okay to feel like you miss your our family moved when we were third grade, and you miss your friends, or you lost your dog, and you're sad about your dog. You didn't get on the ballet team, and you're sad about that. If you didn't come from a family that said it's okay to cry about it, we'll help you, and they made that sort of not okay, either because they didn't know better, or they thought that was a bad thing, or just suck it up and move on. If you never had that skill of grief as something that was trained in you, either by family or church or school or whatever, you don't know what to do with loss. You just kind of ignore it, and you power past it, put my head down and move past it. Probably the worst thing you can do. You're supposed to get past it, but not by going around it, but by going through it and allowing yourself to feel sad. Honor things in your life that we need to honor, and moving on that way. So when you didn't have that skill, or that skill wasn't okay of grief, that can often move into depression, which is when that loss you had, you have to bury it. And when you bury it, you don't bury things dead. You bury things alive. It comes out, and basically there's a deadening of your brain. That's why all those blue thoughts and lack of interest in good food and relationships and sexuality, and that's why loss of energy and negative mood come in, because it's sort of like everything's shutting down, saying you've got to grieve this, you've got to let it go. Grief is temporary. It won't last forever. If you do it right, it'll last, depending on the loss. If it's a major loss, it'll take you more time with lots of comfort and structure. If it's a short thing, it won't take you too long. But if you don't deal with depression, it can last forever. So don't ever let anybody tell you that depression and grief are the same thing. Grief is the solution to depression. So get the help, get a therapist, get a good counselor, get a good mentor, somebody who understands this deeply, and find out some things you've lost that you need to respect enough to say goodbye to, and that changes everything. And for any kind of help from anything in the relational or spiritual, emotional world with us, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE.